Alright, good afternoon, gamers, or good day, or good morning, or whatever is going on with you guys right now. I am here today because on Twitter I asked for some of you to give me your unpopular art opinions. And looking through some of the responses, I'm sort of disappointed because a lot of them I think are quite popular or common art opinions. I did my best to try and go through everything so that, we could have some actual unpopular art opinions. And we actually have quite a few, so we will get into it right after this sponsor.
Man, I can't seem to find any games to play. I finished all of them.
Omega, you look upset. What's wrong?
朋友是一个坚韧不拔的记录。
Oh, you want a game to play? Well, did you hear about that one obscure game called Raid Shadow Legends?
Am I?
Didn't you hear? Raid is celebrating their 2-year anniversary and we're invited.
How are we gonna get back home?
Shh, my dear friend, because I have to tell the audience how Raid is the #1 RPG in the US.
What?
Not only that, but with over 1 million players and 2 million battles, you'll never get bored of playing. It's an awesome, totally free mobile game that's available on PC as well.
Maybe I can contact someone to get me out of here.
Now that's the spirit, buddy. With such an active player base, you're bound to find somebody, especially with such a welcoming community such as Raids. It's filled with a lot of competitive players, and also a lot of creative ones who do things such as cosplay. Gotta say, the community, pretty poggers. This month is Raid's 2-year anniversary, and the schedule is absolutely packed with amazing events. They've got 6 straight weeks of anniversary events, tournaments, running from March 1st all the way through the middle of April. They're even launching the first clan versus clan tournament to give players a chance to compete directly against another clan to see who comes out on top. That's not all. They're also releasing the first champion in the Shadowkin faction, which I personally can't wait to see. I'm going to try my best to get my hands on them. So, Omega, what do you think?
That's susalicious.
Oh, wow! That is relatable!
Right. So anyways, come join Raid. Honestly, it has some of the prettiest art and graphics I've seen for a mobile game in a very long time. And that's really good for if you look at some of the female models and they're just kind of, oh boy. If you download Raid using the link in the description or scan the QR code that you're seeing right now, you'll get 100k silver, 50 gems, and 3 ancient shards for free, as well as a free epic champion. You'll get this dude called Jotun, at least I hope that's how you pronounce his name. All these goodies will be waiting for you, but hurry, it's only available for the next 30 days. It's really that easy. Just click the link in the description. I will see you there, gamers. Okay, now we get into the unpopular opinions. This is all going to be unscripted, so I'm going to try my best to answer these right off the spot and truthfully. Alright, first opinion. Traditional art isn't being taken as seriously as digital art. Traditional art is a dying breed and could possibly be a dying art. Okay, the reason why I think traditional art is like quote-unquote dying is because you ever see those like full of themselves art students who can just throw a bunch of pasta into a can and that's considered art? I think maybe that might be the reason why traditional art is not being taken as seriously. Because let's all face it, some art student throws a few blotches of paint onto a wall and that's being sold for like $10,000. We're all angry about that. Then there's a second part to this tweet that says, payment for exposure can be good for underrated artists as long as you can most certainly confirm that they won't steal the art. No. Well, at least not the sense that payment for exposure is good for underrated artists. I don't think so. Absolutely not. An underrated artist should still be paid. The only way that payment and exposure works is if the person who is using your art is a huge celebrity or some type of online personality. If the person offering to pay you in exposure is, number 1, not very big, or number 2, whose audience or main interest isn't even art, it's not going to work. Like, it's as simple as that. So yeah, your opinion? Kind of unpopular. I'll give it that. We get on to the next opinions, which both have to do with tracing. In essence, these are saying that there is nothing wrong with tracing as long as what you're doing is for learning purposes or if you don't claim you own the artwork. which honestly I think is very true. As long as you don't claim that the art is yours or that you drew it, that you came up with it, yada yada yada, it's totally fine to trace. The issue is when you try to sell it or do things like that. Most people come to believe that tracing overall is not good because you're just never going to learn from it. You're never going to step out of your boundaries. Just from personal experience alone, that's very false. As a kid, I used to trace pictures of Hello Kitty and Dora the Explorer, and doing that eventually made me think, I want to draw something for myself and try to see how it turns out. And that's just kind of how it started. So yeah, I don't think that there's anything wrong with tracing as long as the reason why you do it is to learn. Next opinion, shading or blending with black is fine as long as it's what you want to do and works for you. I agree with this a lot, actually. I've had plenty of people tell me before that I shouldn't shade with black because from what I understand, it makes art look flat a lot of the times. But I don't know, man. Shading with black is sometimes just a stylistic choice, and it reminds me very much of like graphic novels, which often look very stylish, so I don't get what's wrong with it. I don't do it very often, but I have shaded with black a few times, and it looks very nice. Oh boy, I can tell this is gonna be a hot one. I think anime is an overrated trend. Cal arts can work, and experiencing life is the best way to get better at art. Alright, third one, absolutely agree with, no problems there. The first two, however... So I kind of want to start with the obvious. I don't understand how anime is an overrated quote-unquote trend, because it's not a trend, it's an art style, and from what I can see, it's evolving quite a bit. There is a lot of anime, and most times none of it looks the same. All animes have their different quirks that separates all of them from one another. I guess unless you're counting those sort of harem animes where in that case, yes, sometimes they all sort of start to blend together. But anyways, now this might be surprising to some of you, but I am not an active anime watcher. I don't keep up with the latest animes, but even with that, I can tell you basically every single anime I've watched looks different from one another. Cells at Work looks very different to Kakagurui. Kill la Kill looks very different to Land of the Lustrous. The Devil is a Part-Timer looks very different to Beastars. No matter how you look at it, all animes have their different quirks, and you can tell they come from different shows. I don't feel that it's right to simply call anime an overrated trend, because it is absolutely an art form that should be respected, especially considering the amount of fucking time that they make their animators work. Now on to the next thing about Cal Arts being able to work. Yeah, it can. I think that some people are just kind of tired of having every mainstream show on Cartoon Network that have characters looking like they're made out of soft building blocks. Right now, cartoons are simply just going through an era. Just a few years back, most of the cartoons had a lot more sharper edges, which personally I want back. But I think around 2011, 2012, that's when the more softish, squiggly art style started coming in, which is what people want to now call Cal Arts. Another thing I don't think people understand is that before we had things like The Amazing World of Gumball and Regular Show and Clarence, we had cartoons who were sort of getting into that art style already. We had things like Chowder and The Misadventures of Flapjack, and those shows were absolute bangers. So honestly, thinking about it, I think I know what the problem is. These new shows that are coming out are just not for the people who are complaining about it. Like, bro, if you can't vibe with the new cartoons that are coming out, just don't watch it. Quote-unquote Cal Arts as an art style absolutely works. I think maybe, just maybe, we should bring back a bit more variety. And that's all I'm gonna say on that. I don't want to make any cartoon nerds mad. Shitting on Butch Hartman doesn't make you a better artist. It just shows how much you like the attention. Yeah, I agree with that. Alright, listen. I know how shit of a person Butch Hartman is. I fully understand. But I don't know, man. When I see those huge threads of people posting their own artwork underneath Butch Hartman's stuff, I turn away so fast. I just have the feeling that every single person who posts their stuff underneath a thread like that is toxic. I'm sorry, that's just what I think. Most art tutorials on YouTube are useless because they're either too specific or don't help create your own style, or they imply that the only way to draw is by being anime or hyper-realistic, specifically eye tutorials. Also, most tutorials, even outside of YouTube, seem to only be interested in realism equals better, which is beyond unhelpful. Precisely painted sclera, light refraction, and precisely painted sclera, light refraction, and individuality drawn eyelashes. What is this sentence? My dyslexia is having a field day. Long story short, realistic eyes will not make your persona prettier. Okay, now, in essence, I do agree with this. Lots of times art tutorials aren't very helpful because they quote-unquote don't help you develop your own style, and they also sometimes go on this idea that, you know, realism is better. But honestly, I think it just depends on how you decide to take it. If you look up a tutorial for how to draw a hand, and most of the tutorials are very hyper-realistic hands that, you know, show you all the muscles and how it works, it's up to you to take parts of those tutorials and learn how to apply it for your own work. Unless the tutorial is outright saying realism is better, I don't think that that's what they mean. Personally, I do this a lot myself. Sometimes I just don't know how to color or shade something. I take what I can see from the tutorial and do it in my own way, basically simplifying it for myself to fit my work. I also do that for another reason, and that's because my brain is the size of a pea, so I need everything simplified for me. People are too nice when it comes to giving comments on artwork. I'm not saying that you should be hard on the artist, but find a balance. Too many people don't, and don't say what needs improvement or help push the artist forward. It's mostly just praise. Honestly, I think this is less of an art thing and more of an admiration thing. You're most likely going to give praise and compliments to artists that you look up to, so you don't really find it in yourself to say something negative about their artwork. This might just come down to the idea that artists should not be idolized and should just be seen as regular people. I think when it comes to fixing designs, it's fine when there is a critique on the design itself and what can be improved, not when it's an I automatically think my design is better. Yeah, I absolutely agree with this. Redesigning characters is not bad in general. It's just as long as you don't give off that snarky little attitude. And jumping right off of that opinion, we come onto these two, which are both about the removal of boobs when it comes to redesigns of characters. Now, here's the thing. Whenever this happens, I feel personally offended. Not because I'm someone with big tits, because I'm not, but it's just the thought that we are still on this stereotype that because a woman has big tits, she must be automatically stupid or weak. And you can say that that's not the reason all you want. You guys want to like stop sexualization or whatever. But that is honestly where this removal of boobs and redesigns comes from. Whenever you remove the tits off a character and say that, oh, we did this so that the character was no longer sexualized, or that she needs to be proven now as a strong woman, or now she's like incredibly smart, but just the fact that because those are your reasons that you had to remove any sign of her tits is insulting. Not only is it insulting, but it also goes on that line of body shaming. So just know that if you're one of these people who redesign characters, remove the tits, and say that it is now fixed because the character's no longer sexualized, or whatever any of your stupid reasons are, just know that you are part of the problem. You are one of the reasons why lots of times women with big tits or large hips are constantly gawked at and seen as sexual objects or sex icons. You are one of the people who are basically refusing to let that stereotype go, no matter how much you say you're fighting against it. I'm sorry, that's just the truth. I think that telling an artist that their art looks similar to another artist's work or a type of art form isn't inherently bad as long as it's not used to bully them. When someone notices a piece of artwork that they like and say, "This piece reminds me of this thing," or something similar to that, don't always assume that it's used to bully the artist or say that the artwork is bad. Some people just say that it's a compliment because they like the art and it also reminds them of another thing. Now, I do understand, and sometimes when people get their stuff compared and they complain about it, sometimes it does seem ridiculous, but other times it's perfectly understandable because you never know, maybe this person or show that you compared them to is not something they really like. If an artist gets their work compared to some cartoon or something like that, I think it's perfectly okay, and people probably shouldn't be upset over that. However, if you get your work compared to another artist, sometimes that does hurt, because most times artists think that they're absolutely original. And realizing that they're not can sometimes fall upon them like a ton of bricks. Even if that's not the reason, some people just would rather not hear it. Now, for the last 3 opinions, we actually are going to Discord. My most unpopular opinion would be that people shouldn't be so shocked when younger artists are talented and shouldn't feel ashamed to know less than someone younger. We all learn at a different pace and ways. Really, when it comes to this issue, I think it has to do with culture difference. A lot of us didn't have access to digital tablets or just didn't have the money for such a thing. So by the time we did get used to digital art, we were already a bit older. However, younger people are getting into it much faster than we did, which is why they were able to expand on their talents in digital art faster. At least that's my take. But yeah, you shouldn't feel upset when someone younger than you has a lot of talent. Okay, this next one is a bit long. I hope I can get through this. Hot take. Stop with the "art is so hard" attitude. I constantly see memes and posts about how people think it's like torture, and while it's slightly funny at first, at this point it's obnoxious, and it makes me think everyone doing it is just doing it for the attention and not because they actually look down on their art or careers. Going on and on about how much your art sucks and drawing is so soul-crushing is a worthless, defeatist attitude in my eyes that refuses to actually acknowledge the progress and good made within your career that you should pay more attention to and can cause you to ignore how you can improve or make it easier. If you want to improve, try to actually analyze yourself and focus on what could be better. Not a "woe is me" attitude, but a "I know I can make it better and learn from this." Honestly, there's a really simple answer to this, and it's a meme, dude. However, I'm sure that some of the people who make jokes about art being really hard aren't just doing it for the attention. And while they are trying to make jokes, it's most likely a way for them to cope. Because these things happen. Sometimes you see a more popular artist and you get kind of jealous. And it just sort of hurts to think that maybe this one thing that you're talented in, you're not so talented in at all. So while it might be a coping mechanism to some, it's not exactly a healthy one. Which is why, personally, I think we need a bit more positivity in the drawing community, but knowing the way things are going, we're not going to get that. So if you are one of these artists who does these sort of jokes to cope, don't worry. Like, with time, your art is going to get better. And the very last opinion, when people only like the art because of the bust and thickness. This is very upsetting to me because I've been guilty of the same thing. Dude, the art could be the laziest drawn thing, but as long as the character got some big titties and some thickness, I'm good. That is the last of the opinions. I don't think that a lot of them were unpopular, but I did my best to go through and try to find them. Anyways, that'll be all from me, gamers. I really appreciate all of your opinions, even if they didn't get into the video, and I'll see you next time.